Hey everybody, I'm Aaron Simmons, and this is Philosophy for Where We Find Ourselves, March 28th, 2020. I am coming from inside my house while also inside of a tent. This is a tent that my son and I set up a few days ago because he wanted some way to start, as he put it, having more fun while we were at home. And I think this is a brilliant idea. And so he's been sleeping in his tent every night, camping out inside the house, having an absolute ball. And it's given him a way to break up the monotony of the days because each night contains an adventure, a different way forward. And this caused me to think a little bit about the role of fun and play in human existence. And this is not an idea that is detached actually from philosophical history. You may be aware of the story of the symposium in which Plato tells of Socrates gathering with many of his friends, and they're all basically getting drunk, having a kegger as it were, and sitting around talking about the nature of love. But while they did this, of course, it's being done in the context of enjoying each other's company, enjoying being together. Religiously, the idea of table fellowship has a long history of where we get together and break bread together in order to engage with each other and have fun. There's very little more fun than eating and drinking together. And so doing this in a way that then recognizes it potentially even as a kind of sacred act, a kind of liturgy of human engagement, is something that we also would do well to remember. And the last thing that I'm thinking of today regarding this idea of play and fun is Jacques Derrida, someone who, if you ever tried to read his work, you probably did not think, wow, this is fun. But his opaque, difficult authorship, nonetheless, is actually focused quite a bit on the role of play, the play of language, the way in which we can, in some sense, make a game of thinking well, because sometimes language betrays us in almost humorous ways. It becomes more like a game than something like rigorous logical study because it betrays these underlying currents that at some level, the most you can do is laugh. I'll give you an example of this. Many years ago, I wrote an article about analytic philosophy of religion and its engagement with continental philosophy of religion. You don't have to know what any of that means, but I was using abbreviations, so APR and CPR. Well, about halfway through the article, I was making the claim that analytic philosophy of religion needed breath breathed back into it. And so I said that it needed some life-giving CPR. Now, of course, I didn't get the joke when I wrote it. It took me a while, actually, during the revision process to see, oh my goodness, look at that. I didn't intend that, and yet language at some level made the joke happen anyway. Today, find those moments where humor occurs. Find those opportunities to build a tent in your own living room. Find the opportunities to recognize that language betrays us even in the midst of our fear, even in the midst of our anxiety. Because ultimately, having fun, learning to play, are not simply things we do when we aren't sure what else to do. They're things we do no matter what we're doing. Having fun is part of being human. So even in these serious times, even when at some level we might say it's not appropriate to laugh, I think it's really important to remember that laughter is part of what connects us with each other. We are the types of beings, as C.S. Lewis says, who tell jokes while walking up to scaffolds. So today, let's continue to remind each other of that. Maybe reach out to your friends and loved ones and tell them a joke. Here's my favorite. 5 guys walk into a bar. The 6th one ducked. As always, I'll see you tomorrow unless a piano falls on our heads.